Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Titan, looking out at the endless stars through the main viewing screen. The massive battleship moved slowly through space, its engines humming quietly. Jake had been in command of the Titan for 3 years now, and he still felt proud every time he looked at his ship. The Titan was huge. It stretched 2.5 kilometers from front to back, making it the largest warship humans had ever built. Its gray metal hull was covered with weapons and sensors. Inside, 3,000 crew members worked to keep the giant ship running. Jake knew every corner of his ship, every system, every person who served aboard her. "Captain," called out Communications Officer Amy Clark from her station, "we're getting close to the edge of our space. Should we continue the patrol?" Jake nodded. "Keep going, Amy. Earth Command wants us to check this area for any problems." Commander Lisa Bennett, Jake's second-in-command, walked up beside him. She was a tough woman who had served in space for 15 years. "It's been quiet out here, sir. Maybe too quiet." Jake looked at her. "You think something's wrong?" "Just a feeling," Lisa said. "The colonies in this area have been reporting strange signals lately. Nothing clear, but something is out there." Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez's voice came over the ship's communication system. "Captain, all systems are running perfectly. The new fusion reactors are working better than expected." "Good to hear, Tony," Jake replied. He was glad to have Tony on his team. The engineer could fix anything and make the ship's systems work, even better than they were designed to. The bridge was busy but calm. Tactical Officer Danny Torres watched his screens for any signs of danger. Weapons Officer Pete Johnson checked the ship's many guns and missiles. Dr. Karen Walsh, the Chief Medical Officer, was probably in her medical bay, ready to help anyone who got hurt. Jake had trained his crew well. They were the best humans had to offer, picked from thousands of volunteers who wanted to serve on the most advanced ship in the fleet. Every person aboard the Titan knew their job and did it well. Suddenly, alarms started ringing throughout the bridge. Red lights flashed on every control panel. "Captain," Danny Torres shouted from his station, "I'm picking up multiple contacts approaching fast, very fast." Jake quickly moved to the center of the bridge. "How many ships, Danny?" "At least 30, sir. They're moving at speeds that should be impossible. They'll be here in 5 minutes." Lisa Bennett was already at her station, checking the readings. "These aren't human ships, Captain. The energy signatures are completely different from anything we've seen before." Jake felt his heart beat faster. This was it. After decades of humans traveling through space, they had finally met someone else. "Amy, try to contact them. Send the standard first contact message." Amy Clark's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "Sending now, sir." Universal peace signal and basic mathematical concepts. The minutes passed slowly. Everyone on the bridge watched their screens as the unknown ships got closer. The ships appeared on the main viewing screen as small dots of light, but they were growing larger quickly. "Captain," Danny said, his voice tight with worry, "these ships, they don't look like any technology we understand. They seem to be alive." Somehow, Jake could see what Danny meant. As the ships got closer, they looked less like metal spacecraft and more like giant sea creatures swimming through space. Their hulls seemed to shift and change shape as they moved. "Still no response to our messages, Captain," Amy reported. "They're not answering any of our calls." "Sir," Lisa said, "should we raise shields and prepare weapons?" Jake thought for a moment. This was the most important decision any human had ever made. How they handled first contact with alien life would affect the future of the entire human race. "Raise shields, but don't power weapons yet," Jake ordered. "Let's see what they want." The alien fleet stopped just outside weapons range. The ships formed a perfect circle around the Titan, like hunters surrounding their prey. Jake could see them clearly now on the main screen. The ships were beautiful in a strange way, with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to glow with air. "Own light." "Captain," Amy said, "I'm getting a signal. They're trying to communicate." "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The main viewing screen changed to show the inside of one of the alien ships. A creature appeared that looked somewhat like a human, but taller and thinner. Its skin was pale blue, and its eyes were large and dark. It wore what looked like armor that seemed to be part of its body. The creature spoke in a voice that was translated by the ship's computers. "Primitive creatures of the metal ship, I am Fleet Commander Vexthara of the Zephyrian Empire. You have entered space that belongs to us." Jake stepped forward. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Titan. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly relations with your people." Vexthara made a sound that might have been laughter. "Peace? You misunderstand your situation, human. The Zephyrian Empire has conquered dozens of star systems. We are the rulers of this part of the galaxy." "We don't want to fight," Jake said. "Surely we can find a way to coexist." "Your species is weak and primitive," Vexthara replied. "We have watched your small colonies. Your technology is crude, your ships are slow, and your weapons are basic. You will surrender now, or we will take your ship by force." Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "We will not surrender. We have done nothing." "Wrong." Vexthara's eyes grew cold. "Then you have chosen death, human. Prepare to see the power of the Zephyrian Empire." The communication ended, and the alien ships began to move into attack positions. Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. Every face showed determination and courage. "Battle stations," Jake ordered. "All hands, prepare for combat." The peaceful patrol had become humanity's first test against an alien empire that saw them as nothing more than primitive animals to be conquered or destroyed. Fleet Commander Vexthara stood in the center of his flagship's command chamber, watching the primitive human vessel through his ship's organic viewing system. The chamber walls pulsed with a soft blue light, alive and connected to his thoughts. His ship, like all Zephyrian vessels, was not just a machine, but a living creature bred for war. "Science Officer Creolon," Vexthara called to his subordinate, "what can you tell me about this human ship?" Creolon, a thin Zephyrian with pale green skin, touched the living wall of the ship with his hand. Information flowed directly into his mind through the connection. "The vessel is crude, Commander. All metal and basic fusion power. No biological integration at all. It's like something our ancestors might have built 1,000 years ago." Vexthara nodded. This was what he had expected. The Zephyrians had been watching human colonies for months, studying their technology from a distance. Humans built everything the hard way, with metal and circuits, instead of growing their ships from living tissue that could heal itself and adapt to any situation. "How many crew members?" Vexthara asked. "Approximately 3,000, sir. All biological, no artificial intelligence assistants. They seem to do everything manually." The other officers in the command chamber made sounds of amusement. War Leader Zefak, a large Zephyrian with dark blue skin and scars from many battles, stepped forward. "Commander, this will be over quickly. One of our bioships could destroy that metal box without difficulty." Vexthara raised his hand for silence. He was a careful commander who had conquered 12 star systems for the Empire. Do not underestimate any enemy, even a primitive one. "But you are right, Zefak. This will serve as a good lesson for the humans. The Zephyrian Empire had never lost a space battle. Their ships were alive, able to repair damage instantly and adapt to any weapon used against them. The hulls could absorb energy attacks and redirect them back at enemies. The weapons were controlled by the ship's consciousness, making them faster and more accurate than any mechanical system. "What do you recommend, Commander?" asked Navigator HFY, a young officer eager to prove himself in battle. Vexthara walked to the center of the chamber, where a three-dimensional image of the human ship appeared in the air. He studied it carefully, noting the obvious weapon, ports, and the basic armor plating. "We will make an example of this ship," he decided. "Destroy it slowly so that other humans will see what happens when they refuse to surrender to the Empire. But first, we will disable their weapons and take some prisoners. The Empire scientists will want to study these creatures." The command chamber's living walls pulsed with approval. The ship itself was eager for battle, its biological systems already preparing for combat. Vexthara could feel the ship's hunger for victory through their mental connection. "Science Officer Creolon, what is the best way to disable their primitive systems?" Creolon consulted with the ship's consciousness again. "Bioelectric pulses should overload their crude electronics, sir. Their metal circuits cannot adapt like our living systems. A few moderate pulses will leave them helpless." "Excellent. War Leader Zefek, position the fleet for attack." "I want to see the look on that human captain's face when he realizes how outmatched he is." The 30 Zephyrian ships moved into perfect formation around the human vessel. Each ship was a work of art, its biomechanical hull shifting and changing as it prepared for combat. Some ships grew additional weapon pods, while others developed thicker armor plating. The fleet moved like a school of deadly fish, each vessel connected to the others through biological communication networks. Inside the human ship, Vexthara could see the crew running around frantically. Their primitive sensors probably couldn't even understand what they were looking at. The humans were like children playing with dangerous toys they didn't understand. "Commander," War Leader Zefak reported, "all ships are in position. The humans have raised some kind of energy barrier around their ship, but it appears to be basic deflector technology. Our bioweapons will pass through it easily." Vexthara felt satisfied. This would be a good day for the Empire. When news of this victory reached the home worlds, his reputation would grow even stronger. Perhaps the High Council would give him command of an entire sector. "Begin the attack," he ordered. "Disable their weapons first, then their engines. Leave life support working. I want prisoners, not corpses." The Zephyrian ships responded instantly. Bioelectric energy began building in their living weapon systems, preparing to unleash controlled destruction on the human vessel. The energy was beautiful to watch, flowing through the ship's organic conduits like liquid lightning. "Sir, Science?" Officer Creolon said, "The human ship is not trying to run. They're actually moving closer to us." This surprised Vexthara. "Are they trying to ram us?" "That would be suicidal." "No, sir. They seem to be positioning themselves for battle, but that makes no sense. They must know they cannot win." War Leader Zefek laughed. "Humans are clearly too stupid to understand when they are defeated. This will make the lesson even more effective." Vexthara watched the human ship through his viewing system. It was turning to face his flagship directly, as if the human captain wanted to challenge him personally. The foolishness of the action impressed him. Perhaps humans were braver than he had thought, even if they were primitive. "Are their weapons powered?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Creolon reported. "Multiple energy signatures across their hull. They have many small weapons and what appears to be one large weapon along the center of their ship." "Small weapons against bioships?" Zefek scoffed. "They might as well throw rocks at us." The human ship had stopped moving. It hung in space like a metal mountain, its hull dark, except for the lights from windows and weapon ports. To Zephyrian eyes it looked clumsy and slow, nothing like the graceful bioships that surrounded it. "Commander," Navigator HFY called out, "I'm detecting some unusual energy readings from the human vessel." "Their power output is higher than we expected." Vexthara frowned. "How much higher?" Their fusion reactors are producing nearly twice the energy our scouts reported from the human colonies. But it's still primitive technology, sir. Just more of it. It doesn't matter, Vexthara decided. Quantity cannot replace quality. Begin the bioelectric pulse attack. Show these humans what real power looks like. The Zephyrian fleet unleashed its first attack. Streams of living energy flowed from the bioships toward the human vessel, designed to overload every electronic system on the primitive ship. The energy was precise and controlled, meant to disable rather than destroy. Vexthara watched with satisfaction as the bioelectric pulses struck the human ship's energy barrier. The barrier flared with light as it absorbed the attack, then the energy continued on to strike the metal hull dot. He expected to see the human ship's lights go out as their systems failed. He expected to see their weapons power down and their engines stop. He expected to see a helpless metal box floating in space, ready to be boarded and captured. Instead, the human ship's lights stayed on. Its weapons remained active. Its engines continued to run. Science Officer Creolon, Vexthara said slowly. Why didn't that work? Creolon was staring at his readings in confusion. I don't understand, sir. The bioelectric pulse should have overloaded their systems completely, but they seemed to be unaffected. For the first time in many years, Fleet Commander Vexthara felt a small touch of uncertainty, but he pushed the feeling away. The humans had probably just built better shielding than expected. No primitive species could match Zephyrian biotechnology. Then, we will use more power, he declared. All ships, prepare for full combat assault. The bioelectric pulse hit the Titan's shields like a wave of blue lightning. On the bridge, Captain Jake Morrison watched his crew work with calm efficiency as the alien attack washed over their ship. Shield status, Jake called out. Shields. Holding at 98%, reported Tactical Officer Danny Torres. Whatever they just hit us with, our systems absorbed it easily. Jake felt a moment of pride in his ship and crew. The Titan had been built with the best human technology available. Her shields were powered by fusion reactors that could generate enough energy to power an entire city. Her hull was made of advanced alloys that could withstand incredible punishment. There, probably surprised that didn't work, said Commander Lisa Bennett. I know I would be if I were in their position. Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez's voice came over the communication system. Captain, I'm seeing some interesting readings from that attack. It was designed to overload electronic systems, but our hardened circuits and backup systems handled it without any problems. Jake nodded. Human ships were built to survive in the worst conditions space could offer. Every system had backups, and every backup had backups. The aliens had probably never seen anything like it. Sir, Danny Torres said, the alien ships are moving into attack formation. I think they're getting ready for something bigger. Jake walked to the center of the bridge. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with the confidence that came from years of training. They had drilled for this moment countless times, though none of them had ever expected to face alien ships. Amy, any response to our communication? Attempts? Jake asked. Communications Officer Amy Clark shook her head. Nothing, sir. They're not interested in talking. Jake looked at the main viewing screen where the alien ships hung in space around them. The bioships were beautiful in their own way, but they were clearly designed for war. Their hulls rippled, changed shape as he watched, growing what looked like additional weapons. Weapons Officer Johnson, what's the status of our defensive systems? Pete Johnson looked up from his console. All point defense systems are online. And ready, sir. The new automated turrets are charged and tracking multiple targets. If they send small fighters at us, we'll be ready. Good. Danny, what can you tell me about their ships? Danny Torres studied his tactical display. 30 ships. Total, sir. They seem to be using some kind of biological technology. The hulls are definitely alive somehow. Energy readings are strange, not like any power source we've seen before. Jake made his decision. All hands, this is the captain. We are about to engage in combat with an alien force. Remember your training, do your jobs, and trust in your shipmates. We represent all of humanity today. Make Earth proud. The alien ships began to glow with energy. Jake could see weapons charging along their organic hulls, preparing to unleash something much more dangerous than their first attack. Here they come, Danny announced. Multiple energy signatures building across the alien fleet. The second alien attack was different from the first. Instead of controlled bioelectric pulses, the aliens unleashed streams of pure energy that tore through space toward the Titan. The weapons were clearly designed to destroy rather than disable. Brace for impact, Jake ordered. The energy beams struck the Titan's shields with tremendous force. The bridge lights flickered as the ship's power systems strained to maintain the defensive barriers. But the shields held, absorbing and redirecting the alien energy into space. Shield strength down to 85%, Danny reported. But we're still in good shape. Jake was impressed by his ship's performance, but he was more impressed by what happened next. As the alien energy attack continued, small shapes began separating from the bioships. Hundreds of them, moving incredibly fast toward the Titan. Fighter. Craft incoming, Pete Johnson announced. They looked like living missiles. Jake watched the approaching swarm on the main screen. The alien fighters were unlike anything humans had ever built. They moved like living creatures, twisting and turning through space without any visible means of propulsion. Point defense systems, engage, Jake ordered. The Titan's response was immediate and devastating. Hundreds of automated turrets emerged from hidden positions all along the ship's hull. The turrets were controlled by advanced targeting computers that could track thousands of targets simultaneously. The point defense guns opened fire, filling space with streams of high-velocity metal projectiles. The bullets moved at incredible speed, guided by targeting systems that could hit a coin from 100 kilometers away. The alien fighters had no chance. They were designed to fight enemies who used energy weapons, not physical projectiles. The metal bullets tore through their biological hulls like paper, destroying dozens of fighters in the first few seconds. Direct hits across the board, Pete Johnson reported with satisfaction. Their fighters are not built to handle kinetic weapons. Jake smiled grimly. Humans had always been good at throwing things at each other. It was one of their oldest skills, and they had perfected it over thousands of years of warfare. But the aliens were not finished. As their fighters died around the Titan, the bioships themselves began to change. Their hulls grew thicker and more angular, adapting to the human weapons in real time. Sir, Danny Torres said, the alien ships are modifying themselves. They're growing additional armor plating. Can they adapt to our weapons? Jake asked. Unknown, sir. But they're definitely trying. The alien fleet resumed its attack, this time with weapons that seemed to bend space itself. The energy beams twisted and curved as they approached the Titan, making them nearly impossible to track or defend against. Shields down to 70%, Danny reported. These new weapons are getting through our defenses. Jake knew it was time to show the aliens what human engineering could really do. Tony, I need full power to the maneuvering thrusters. Lisa, prepare to execute Combat Pattern Alpha. Commander Bennett moved to her station. Combat Pattern Alpha, aye, sir. The Titan began to move, and suddenly the massive battleship was no longer the slow, clumsy target the aliens expected. The ship's engines, designed to push its enormous mass through space, could also make it surprisingly agile when needed. The battleship twisted and turned, avoiding the alien energy beams with grace that seemed impossible for something so large. The movement was controlled by computers that could make thousands of calculations per second, adjusting the ship's position to avoid incoming fire. "The aliens are having trouble tracking us," Danny observed. "Their weapons are designed for stationary targets." Jake nodded. "Pete, prepare the main gun. It's time to show them what real firepower looks like." The Titan's main weapon was a massive railgun that ran along the entire length of the ship's spine. It could fire tungsten rods at incredible speeds, turning simple metal into a weapon that could punch through any armor. "Main gun charged and ready," Pete Johnson reported. "Target locked on the lead alien ship." Jake looked at the alien fleet one more time. They had started this fight, but he was going to finish it. "Fire." The railgun spoke with a voice like thunder. The tungsten rod left the barrel at 10% the speed of light, crossing the distance to the alien flagship in less than a second. The bioship's adaptive armor meant nothing against a projectile moving at that speed. The rod punched through the alien vessel from front to back, leaving a perfectly round hole through its entire length. The alien ship shuddered, its biological systems trying desperately to heal the damage. But there was too much destruction. The bioship began to break apart, its living hull dying as its consciousness faded. For a moment, the entire alien fleet stopped shooting. Jake could imagine their shock and confusion as they watched their most advanced ship destroyed by what they considered primitive technology. "Sir," Amy Clark said, "I'm receiving a communication from the aliens. They want to talk." Jake looked. At the main screen were the damaged alien ships hung in space around his victorious battleship. "Put them through, Amy. Let's see what they have to say now." Fleet Commander Vexthara stared in horror at the place where his flagship had been. The proud bioship, alive and intelligent, was now nothing but floating debris and dying tissue. The human weapon had destroyed it so completely that the ship's consciousness had been snuffed out instantly. "Impossible," War Leader Zethek whispered. "No weapon can penetrate bioarmor that quickly." Vexthara's current ship, his secondary command vessel, pulsed with fear around him. The living walls had turned pale, and he could feel the ship's terror. Through their mental connection, the bioship had never experienced anything like this before. "Science Officer Creolon," Vexthara called out. "What kind of weapon was that?" Creolon was frantically checking his readings, his hands shaking as he touched the ship's living controls. "Sir, it appears to be a simple kinetic projectile. Just a piece of metal moving at incredible speed. That's impossible. No species uses kinetic weapons in space combat. They're too primitive, too basic." But, sir, the metal rod was moving at 10% light speed. At that velocity, even a small projectile has enough energy to destroy a planet. Vexthara felt his confidence cracking. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered dozens of worlds, defeated hundreds of different species, but they had never faced an enemy like this. The humans were supposed to be primitive, weak, defenseless. "Commander," Navigator Yexhai reported, "the human ship is moving again. It's changing position." On the viewing system, Vexthara watched the massive human battleship maneuver through space. It moved with surprising grace for something so large, its engines creating distortions in space-time that interfered with Zephyrian sensors. "All ships, resume attack," Vexthara ordered. "Concentrate all firepower on that vessel. Destroy it now." The remaining 29 bioships unleashed everything they had. Energy beams that could melt mountains, reality-warping weapons that bent space itself, living missiles that could adapt to any defense. The combined firepower of the Zephyrian fleet lit up space like a small star, but the human ship was no longer where they expected it to be. The massive battleship had moved, and most of the alien weapons missed their target completely. The few that did hit were absorbed by the ship's shields or deflected by its armor. How can something so large move so quickly? Zefak demanded. Vexthara had no answer. Zephyrian bioships were fast and agile, but they were also relatively small. The human ship was enormous, yet it moved like a fighter craft. Sir, Krialon said, I'm detecting multiple weapon signatures from the human vessel. They're powering up systems we haven't seen before. The human ship's response was swift and devastating. Dozens of new weapons appeared along its hull, firing. Different types of projectiles and energy beams. Some weapons shot streams of metal bullets. Others launched explosive missiles. And still others fired focused energy blasts. But the most terrifying weapon was the ship's main gun. It fired again, and another Zephyrian bioship died instantly. Its living hull pierced by a tungsten rod moving at impossible speed. Evasive maneuvers? Vexthara ordered. All ships scatter formation. The bioships tried to spread out, but the human vessel seemed to predict their movements. Its weapons tracked the fleeing ships with deadly accuracy, destroying them one by one. War. Leader Zethek's ship was caught by a swarm of human missiles. The bioship's defenses tried to adapt, growing new armor and deploying energy fields. But the missiles were too fast and too numerous. They overwhelmed the ship's defenses and tore it apart from the inside. Zethak's ship is destroyed, Navigator Yexhai reported. We've lost 8 vessels in the last 5 minutes. Vexthara felt panic rising in his chest. This was not how space battles were supposed to go. Zephyrian bioships were supposed to be invincible, their living hulls able to adapt to any threat. But the human weapons were too fast, too powerful, too unexpected. Sir, Krialon said urgently, I'm analyzing the human weapon systems. They're using multiple different technologies simultaneously. Energy weapons, kinetic weapons, explosive weapons, even some kind of gravity manipulation. That's impossible. No species uses so many different weapon types. But it makes sense, sir. By using different technologies, they make it impossible for our bioships to adapt. As soon as our hulls adjust to one weapon type, they hit us with something completely different. Vexthara realized with growing horror that the humans had not just built superior weapons. They had built them specifically to counter adaptive defenses. It was as if they had studied Zephyrian biotechnology and designed their ship to defeat. Another bioship exploded as the human railgun fired again. The tungsten projectile moved so fast that the bioship's consciousness didn't even have time to register the attack before it died. Commander, Navigator Yexhai said, we've lost half our fleet. Should we retreat? The word retreat had never been spoken in a Zephyrian command chamber before. The Empire's bioships had never needed to run from a battle. But Vexthara was watching his fleet die, and he was powerless to stop it. No, he said through gritted teeth. We are the Zephyrian Empire. We do not run from primitives. But even as he spoke, more bioships were dying. The human vessel moved through space like an apex predator, its weapons reaching out to destroy everything in range. The ship's point defense systems shot down every missile and fighter the aliens sent at it, while its main weapons systematically eliminated the larger ships. Sir, Science Officer Krialon said quietly, we need to retreat. If we stay here, we'll all die. Vexthara looked around his command chamber. The living walls were pale with fear, and his remaining officers were staring at their readings in shock. They had never seen Zephyrian bioships die so easily. How many ships do we have left? He asked. 15, sir. And we're losing more every minute. As if to prove the point, another bioship vanished in a flash of light as human weapons found their mark. The ship's death scream echoed through the biological communication network, a sound of pure agony that made every surviving Zephyrian officer flinch. Commander, Navigator Yexhai said desperately, if we don't retreat now, there won't be anyone left to report back to the Empire. Vexthara felt the weight of his decision. The Zephyrian Empire needed to know about this threat. They needed to understand that humans were not the primitive creatures they appeared to be. "All ships," he said finally, "prepare to retreat, but first, launch every weapon we have left. I want to see if we can at least damage that monster." The remaining bioships unleashed everything they had in one final desperate assault. Every weapon, every missile, every energy beam they could generate. The attack was massive, enough firepower to destroy an entire planet. The human ship took the full force of the assault. Its shields flared and sparked, and for a moment, Vexthara thought they might have finally succeeded in hurting it. But when the energy faded, the human battleship was still there, still intact, still dangerous. "Retreat," Vexthara ordered. "All ships retreat now." The surviving bioships turned and fled, their living hulls damaged and their consciousness in shock. Behind them, the human vessel hung in space like a victorious predator, its weapons still powered and ready for more combat. As his ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, Vexthara realized that the Zephyrian Empire had just met its match. Humans were not primitive at all. They were something far more dangerous. They were warriors who had turned the art of destruction into a science. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Titan, watching the last of the alien ships disappear into faster-than-light travel. The space around his battleship was filled with debris from destroyed bioships, glowing pieces of what had once been living vessels. "Damage report," Jake called out. "Shields at 40%, reported Tactical Officer Danny Torres. "Hull damage is minimal. Some scorch marks on the outer armor, but nothing serious. All weapon systems are still operational." Jake felt relief wash over him. His ship and crew had survived humanity's first space battle with aliens. More than survived. They had won decisively? Casualties? He asked. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Karen Walsh's voice came over the communication system. 15 crew members with minor injuries from the ship's movements during combat. No fatalities, Captain. "Outstanding," Jake said. He was proud of his crew and his ship. The Titan had performed exactly as designed, proving that human engineering could hold its own against alien technology. "Sir," Communications Officer Amy Clark said, "I'm detecting a distress signal. One of the alien ships didn't escape. It's badly damaged and drifting about 10 kilometers away." Jake looked at the main viewing screen. He could see the alien bioship, its hull torn and bleeding a strange blue fluid into space. Parts of the ship were trying to heal themselves, but the damage was too extensive. "Are there life signs aboard?" Jake asked. Danny Torres checked his sensors. "Faint biological readings, sir. Looks like maybe a dozen survivors." Commander Lisa Bennett stepped closer to Jake. "Sir, what are your orders? This could be our chance to learn about these aliens." Jake considered his options. The smart military decision would be to destroy the damaged ship and eliminate any potential threat. But Jake was also an explorer and a scientist. This was humanity's first contact with alien life, and the survivors could provide valuable information. "Prepare a boarding party," Jake decided. "Full combat gear, but I want them to offer medical assistance. Dr. Walsh, prepare to treat alien injuries if possible." "Aye, sir," Dr. Walsh replied. "I'll bring portable medical equipment and hope their biology isn't too different from ours." Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez joined the conversation over the ship's communication system. "Captain, I'd like to send some engineers with the boarding party. If we can study their technology, we might learn something about how their bioships work." "Approved, Tony, but everyone stays alert. We don't know how these aliens will react to being rescued by the people who just defeated them." The boarding party launched in a small shuttle and crossed the distance to the damaged alien ship. Jake watched on the main screen as his people carefully entered the biovessel through a breach in its hull. "Captain," came the voice of Lieutenant Mike Davis, leader of the boarding party. "We're inside the alien ship. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. The walls are alive, sir. They're breathing." Jake listened as his team explored the bioship. The reports were fascinating and disturbing at the same time. The ship was a living creature, with organs instead of engines, and a nervous system instead of computer networks. "We've found survivors," Lieutenant Davis reported. 12 aliens, all injured but alive. "They seem to be in shock. Dr. Walsh is treating them now." "How are they responding to medical treatment?" Jake asked. Dr. Walsh's voice crackled over the communication link. "Their biology is similar enough to ours that basic first aid works. Captain, I'm able to stop their bleeding and stabilize their vital signs. They seem surprised that we're helping them." "Any sign of resistance or hostility?" "No, sir. They're too injured and shocked to fight. I think they expected us to kill them." Jake felt a mixture of sadness and understanding. If the situations were reversed, he might have expected the same thing. Space warfare was usually brutal, with no mercy for the defeated. "Lieutenant Davis, have you found their commander?" "Yes, sir. A tall alien with blue skin and what looks like natural armor. He's conscious but badly hurt. He keeps staring at us, like he can't believe what he's seeing." Jake made a decision that would affect human-alien relations for years to come. "Bring the survivors aboard the Titan. Dr. Walsh, prepare the medical bay to treat alien patients. I want them to know that humans can be merciful as well as dangerous." The boarding party returned with the alien survivors an hour later. Jake went to the medical bay to see them for himself. The aliens were unlike anything he had imagined. They were tall and thin, with pale blue or green skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Their eyes were large and dark, and they watched the humans with a mixture of fear and curiosity. The alien commander was awake, lying on a medical bed while Dr. Walsh worked on his injuries. His armor had been removed, revealing skin that was covered in what looked like natural scales. Despite his wounds, his eyes were alert and intelligent. "Can he understand us?" Jake asked Dr. Walsh. "I think so, sir. Their ship's translation system is still working through some kind of biological implant. He's been listening to everything we say." Jake approached the alien commander slowly, his hands visible and empty. "I am Captain Jake Morrison. You are safe aboard my ship." The alien stared at him for a long moment before speaking. His voice was weak but clear. "I am Fleet Commander Vex Thara of the Zephyrian Empire. Why have you not killed me?" "Because we are not murderers," Jake replied. "You attacked us, but now you are wounded and defenseless. We help those who need help, even our enemies." Vex Thara's eyes widened. "This makes no sense. You defeated our fleet easily. You could have destroyed. Use all. Why show mercy to those who sought to conquer you?" Jake pulled up a chair and sat down beside the alien commander's bed. "Because that's who we are. Humans fight when we have to, but we don't kill when we don't have to. You came to our space looking for a fight, and we gave you one. But now the fight is over. Your species is confusing," Exthara said. "We studied your colonies. We thought you were weak and primitive. Your technology seemed crude compared to ours." "Our technology is different from yours," Jake agreed. "You build ships that are alive. We build ships that are tools. Both approaches have advantages." Exthara was quiet for a moment, thinking, "Your weapons, they were designed to defeat bioships. How did you know about our technology?" Jake smiled. "We didn't. We build our weapons to work against any possible enemy. Energy shields, thick armor, adaptive defenses. We try to prepare for everything." "That is why you won," Vexthara realized. Not because your technology is better, but because it is more flexible. Our bioships can adapt, but your ship was ready for anything we could do. Perhaps, Jake said, but I hope this doesn't have to lead to more fighting. The galaxy is big enough for both our species. Vexthara looked surprised. You would not seek revenge for our attack? What would be the point? You learned that humans are not easy prey. We learned that we're not alone in the universe. Maybe we can both benefit from this knowledge. Over the next few days, as the alien survivors recovered, Jake spent time talking with Vexthara. The Zephyrian commander was intelligent and curious, asking many questions about human society and technology. In return, he shared information about the Zephyrian Empire and other alien species they had encountered. The Empire will not believe my report, Vexthara said during one of their conversations. They will think I am lying or that I have lost my mind. No species has ever defeated a Zephyrian fleet so completely. What will you tell them? Jake asked. The truth. That humans are not the primitive species we thought. That your weapons and tactics are unlike anything we have seen. That your people show mercy to defeated enemies, which is something we have never encountered before. Jake nodded. And what do you think will happen then? Vexthara was quiet for a long time. I do not know. The Empire has two choices. They can recognize humans as equals and seek peaceful relations, or they can see you as a threat that must be eliminated before you become too powerful. Which do you think they'll choose? I hope they choose peace, Vexthara said. But the Empire has never backed down from a challenge. They may send a larger fleet to test you again. Jake felt a chill at those words. The Titan was powerful, but it was only one ship. If the aliens came back with hundreds of bioships, even his advanced battleship might not be enough. If they do come back, Jake said, I hope they remember that we showed mercy when we could have shown only strength. A week later, the alien survivors were healthy enough to travel. Jake had his crew repair one of the smaller bioships they had captured, giving the aliens a way to return to their Empire dot. As Vexthara prepared to leave, he approached Jake one last time. Captain Morrison, I want you to know that this encounter has changed me. I have learned that strength without mercy is not true strength at all. And I have learned that the galaxy is full of surprises, Jake replied. I hope the next time our species meet, it will be as friends rather than enemies. Vexthara made a gesture that might have been a bow. I will do everything I can to make that happen. But prepare your people, Captain. The Empire will test you again, and next time they will not underestimate humans. The alien ship departed, carrying news of humanity's power back to the Zephyrian Empire. Jake watched it disappear into faster-than-light travel, then turned to his crew. Set course for Earth, he ordered. Command needs to know what happened here, and we need to start preparing.